My dad told me that those women were so jealous of my mother. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, all right, I'm doing too much. But pretty much they were so jealous of my mom that a lady brought a gun, to the work. So I take the gum and I go to my mom. I'm like, Mom, can I have some gum? She says, Nadine, no, you cannot. I said, okay, I'm gonna put this in my sock. Not my pocket, but my sock. So I put the gum in my sock and I'm like, all right, bet, I'm stealing. I got the gum in my sock, woo woo. Mind you though, the gum was in front of the cash register. So who's at the cash register? The lady who works there. So she saw me take the gum to my mom. Hey everyone, my name is Nadine, aka Nad, and this is Keeping Up with Nad, where things get real and nothing is off limits. Hello everyone, and welcome to Keeping Up with Nad. You're probably thinking, who are you and what is a Nad? Well, I'm Nad, aka Nadine. I feel like it's time for me to just open that book and tell you guys about everything, starting with how I even got here. My parents, I gotta give them credit. So I gotta start off with my parents. First, I want you guys to know that both of my parents are born in Jamaica, born and raised. So my mom was born in Clarendon and my dad was born in Kingston, Jamaica. So imagine a little town girl, big town guy. Like that's the comparison of the towns. But yeah, they met each other and it's so sweet. And I feel like telling you guys the story because they did it so traditional and you don't have to agree with the traditional lifestyle, but I feel like it's worth telling, especially to you guys, so you guys can understand like everything, especially with my parents. I have to give them credit. I have to. Shout out to Michelle and Nestor, okay? Shout out to them because if it wasn't for them, I would not be here. They met each other in Jamaica. My mom and my dad were both in a singing group, so they sang together. They were talented, okay? They were not tone deaf. They were in a singing group and they just, like when they first met, they like hit it off. They fell in, I think it was love at first sight to me, but I wasn't there, so how would I know? But I'm pretty sure it was love at first sight because my dad told me that ever since they met, they were like inseparable to the point where they would fall asleep on the phone. They would write love letters to each other. Like the communication was always consistent. So imagine back in the 1900s having consistent communication. Like that's great. Like they didn't have phones. They didn't have technology. They had the wired telephone. So imagine you're falling asleep with your man or your woman and you're on the phone falling asleep with a cord. Like that's real love. I really think it's real love. But like I said, they met each other in a singing group. They fell in love with each other ever since then. And my parents both decided to come to California. And I'm so happy they chose California because if it was like North Carolina or Iowa, no offense to those states, but I'm so glad they chose California. They both decided to move out in 1990. And just start working immediately, get that bread. They weren't playing no games and they weren't wasting no time. So my dad's first job that he's ever had coming into California was being a janitor. And I'm not ever putting down anyone when it comes to whatever job they have. If you need to make that money, make that money. And that's what my dad did. So my dad was like, let me find a place where I can work. And that was a private school called. So he started working at that school for about 2 years. And while working there, he saved every dollar. And if you know my dad, he's a little cheap. So, he saved every dollar. But I appreciate that because if he didn't do that, I don't know how our living situation would even be. So shout out to my dad for saving that coin. Thank you for that. But yeah, my dad saved that money. He worked as a janitor. And while he was working as a janitor, a family that also was like affiliated with that school took him in, like literally took him in. They were like, hey, come to our house, come get our oranges from our trees. You can mow our lawn. We'll give you a little coin. Once my dad heard the coin, he was like, I'm there. So he ended up taking care of that house, honestly. He'd always be at that house, mowing their lawns, always getting oranges. Like, that was just something he ended up consistently doing. And he stayed in communication with them even after working from being a janitor. So, for example, he was a janitor, and then the family took him in. He saved his money, and then my mom was still working too. So, like, don't get this wrong. My mom wasn't just kicking back. They both wanted to get the bread. So my mom was working as a registered dietitian at WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, and she was loving that job. But I'm going to spill some tea. They were a little jealous of her to the point where it wasn't safe for her to work, straight up. They were jealous. I don't want to spill too much information, but it was... Actually, I am going to spill so much information. I said I'm going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And nothing's off limits. So let me just say what it is. My dad told me that those women were so jealous of my mother. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, all right, I'm doing too much. But pretty much they were so jealous of my mom that a lady brought a gun, to the work. I don't know what their plans was with the gun. I don't know if they were trying to intimidate my mother, but my mom was like, I don't need this job that much. Y'all got it. You can have it. And if you think about it, my mom, a Black woman in a predominantly white, demographic at that job, I personally think it was a race thing. I really do. I think they were jealous. My mom was like smart. My mom had her master's, MPH, CLE. Like, she was not playing around with her credentials. And I feel like they may have underestimated her or belittled her. I don't know what the situation was, but once my dad told me they brought a gun, I was like, oh, I would have left. That's a wrap. You're not bringing a gun near me. I don't do gun violence. No, thank you. But yeah, so my mom left. She was like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stick around and risk my life because of y'all. So she left. And at that time, I think when she was leaving, she ended up getting sick with multiple sclerosis. So that is a autoimmune disorder, which basically deteriorates your body over time. And I didn't know that, okay? So when my mom got sick, I was around, I want to say 7, 8, or 9. I don't know, around that. I really don't know exactly the specific year of when she got sick. But I do remember we were in an apartment in California. And I don't know what, it just like things changed. Like, there was a shift when my dad came home with my mom, and he was just pretty much saying, like, your mom's sick. And I'm over here thinking, like, sick with a cold? Like, how long is she going to be sick for? Like, what are we talking about? And he tried explaining it to me, and I was like, okay, cool. But I wasn't actually comprehending what he actually meant. I was just thinking my mom was temporarily going to be sick and she was going to be okay, like, later down the line. But no, that wasn't the case at all. So yeah, that happened. My mom did get sick, so she ended up being a stay-at-home mom, which I really appreciate, because my mom, if you guys know who my mom is, she was like an angel from heaven, like super angelic, like soft-spoken, just so nice. Like, she never raised her voice at me. Like, her raising her voice was like, Nadine. It wasn't like a, Nadine, get your, like, it was never like that. It was like a, Nadine, why would you do that? God is not happy with you doing those things. I was a bad kid, so. So yeah, she would never raise her voice at me. And I think that speaks a lot, because I don't think yelling at your kid is the best alternative. But parents raise their children different, but my mom, she did the best job she could ever do. And I think her being so soft-spoken and my dad not being so soft-spoken was a good balance. My dad was more so the opposite. So, for example, I remember when I was around the same age, maybe like 8, 9, or 10. I don't remember. I was a young pitney. And pretty much me and my mom went to this 99-cent store, and I don't know, my mom was shopping. She was getting some things. And I want you guys to know, my mom raised me vegan. Mind you, my mother raised me vegan. Not my dad, my mother. So my dad ate meat. My mother did not. Mind you, my mom is a registered dietitian. Hence the reason why she raised me vegan, because she knew what was healthy for me and what wasn't. But me, little old me, I was like, heck nah, I want the chips. I want the cookies. I want the junk. Why can't I have that? I wasn't understanding. I wasn't comprehending. But my mom kept on telling me, like, I want you to be healthy. I want you to be nice and strong. Drink your soy milk. Soy milk? I wanted a real 1%. But I didn't understand why she was doing that. I was just thinking that she was being mean, super strict. But fast forward, I'm at the 99-cent store with my mom. And there's gum, like at the front of like where the register is. So imagine a cash register and like all the little candies, gums. And I wanted gum. I was like, I want gum. And back then, gum was like 50 cents. I had 2 quarters. But was my mom going to let me get gum? No. So am I going to steal? Yes, I'm stealing. So what I did was, I tested it out because I was like, maybe my mom might have a change of heart. So I take the gum and I go to my mom. I'm like, Mom, can I have some gum? She says, Nadine, no, you cannot. I said, okay, I'm going to put this in my sock. Not my pocket, but my sock. So I put the gum in my sock. And I'm like, all right, bet, I'm stealing. I got the gum in my sock. Woo, woo. Mind you, though, the gum was in front of the cash register. So who's at the cash register? The lady who works there. So she saw me take the gum to my mom, but didn't see me return it. So my mom's at the register. She's cashing out. Da 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 da. The lady at the register's like, so did you guys decide that you guys are gonna get the gum? And my face is like, if I could turn red, my face was, internally I was red. I was hot. I was livid. I was like, no way. But of course, because she saw me, she would know that I had the gum. And my mom was like, no, I told her no, so maybe we're not going to get the gum. And the lady was like, oh, then where is it? Where is the gum? And I was just like looking around, like trying to not, act like I'm hearing the conversation. My mom turned to me. She says, Nadine, do you still have the gum on you? And I'm looking at her. I'm like, no, I don't got no gum. What are you talking about? Trying to act all cool. Why am I trying to act cool? I don't know. But yeah, so I told her, I was like, I don't got no gum. And she was like, Nadine, God doesn't like when you lie. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, is God looking at me right now? Oh my gosh, am I going to get a star off my crown? I was like, all right. I was like, here. I pulled it out my sock. You know how embarrassing it is to pull gum out your sock? Pull it out the sock, put it on the register. She was like, ooh. The lady at the register was like, ooh. And my mom was like, oh, Nadine, were you going to steal? I'm like, yes, Mom, I'm going to steal. It's my sock. What you mean? Yes, I was going to steal. Let's steal. Go. But no, I got caught. You caught me. The first thing my mom said, your dad's not going to be happy about that. I said, yo, don't tell my dad. I said, please. I was begging her in the car. I was like, please don't tell my dad. She's like, he has to know, Nadine. He has to know. That is not okay. So I go home. All I'm thinking about is my butt is going to be red. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was correct. My dad came home and he gave me a butt whooping that I will never forget till this day. So thanks, Dad. I will never steal. I will never steal. Psych. I ended up stealing even more, but we'll talk about that later down the line. But yeah, so that was like my first butt whooping, and that really taught me a lesson. Not really, but it made me rebel more. And honestly, that was pretty embarrassing. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, why would I steal gum? Gum. Like, I had 2 quarters, but like, I don't know. I was just really tempted. But that's what happens when you restrict your kid. Like, my mom was so strict. Like, we had no chips in the house. Like I said, no junk food. We had nothing. My mom cooked every time. Like, every meal, if she had the opportunity to cook, she was cooking tofu, rice and peas, tofu, rice and peas, tofu scramble for breakfast. And then we would do malto meal. If you know, you know. Malto meal, we never really did oatmeal. It was really cream of wheat, orange juice, fruit. We had to do fruit. And I had to have a glass of soy milk, like a whole 8 ounces. And back then, silk was disgusting, okay? Silk, no offense, but I didn't like it as a kid. I didn't like it. It was gross. And my mom would always be like, come on, Nadine, drink your milk. You need the calcium for your bones. And I'd be like, forget my bones. But I'd drink it. I had no choice. They wouldn't let me out the house without drinking my milk. But it's okay. It's all right. I conquered. But yes, my mom was very strict on me on my diet and how I ate, making sure I ate all my fruits, all my vegetables, all my whole grains, everything. While my dad could just eat anything. And I would always be like, Mom, hello, what about your husband? And she would just like brush it off like, And I'm pretty sure it's because she tried. And my dad would like eat vegan food, but like, I'm not gonna lie, it just didn't taste the best when I was younger. I don't know. Maybe it was lacking some seasoning. But my mom was very strict about seasoning as well. Too much salt, hypertension. I was like, oh my gosh, we can't have anything in this house. It was boring. But like I said, I'm happy because I ended up being a very healthy individual. So shout out to my mom for making me drink that milk and eat my fruits and vegetables. It did end up working. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, so that's how my mom was when it came to how I ate and making sure I stayed healthy. And like I said, my mom was really soft-spoken. Mind you, I am an only child. Again, I am an only child. Womp, womp, womp. Psych, ain't nothing womp about that. I was spoiled, okay? Feet up. When I tell you I never had to do laundry, I never had to wash the dishes, I never had chores, period, point blank, because my dad already had it in his mind that he needed to clean the house. And my mom had the other side of it, like, I need to clean the house too. So it was like two people already cleaning the house, might as well clean my stuff too, because I didn't really make a mess, to be honest. And they did everything for me, and I'm so grateful for that. Like, doing my laundry, doing my clothes, doing everything for me, like never having to do chores ever. Very grateful for that. But yeah, and I was definitely spoiled. So nothing was bad about being an only child, to be completely honest. I loved it. I really loved it. People would always be like, how is it like not having a brother or a sister? In my head, I'd be like, I want another sibling. Psych, I didn't want nobody. I wanted it to just be me. Okay? My parents got me clothes. They got me literally everything except the food aspect of it. Like, psych, you're not getting no junk. But on the other hand, you might get some cool dresses, money, you know what I mean? Toys, all the things I really wanted, to be completely honest. I got it with like, it was no hesitation. I always got it. And I think that raised me to be really spoiled and really like spoiled rotten, like to the point where I would talk back to my mom. Ugh. Oh my goodness. When I say I would talk back, like my mom would be like, I don't know, she would tell me to go do something. And I'd be like, I don't need to do it. Like I'd yell at her and she'd be like, Nadine, God doesn't like you to talk to your parents like that. Honor your mother and thy father. Like she would quote the Bible every single time. And I would get so frustrated. It would enrage me because I felt like my mom had no personality aside from the Bible. Like it was really frustrating for me as a kid. So I would always yell at her. And I hate that now. I really regret that. That's one thing I definitely regret with me and my mom's relationship, especially as a child. I'd always yell at her for no reason. Like I'd always get attitude. I don't know if that's just me being a Leo or not. But I always gave her attitude, and that's not good. Like, little pick-me, giving my mom attitude, but I only did that when my dad wasn't around, okay? Once my dad was around, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, it was never an argument, because my dad was gonna whoop me. What you mean? You said what? Like, it was never a question. My dad never hesitated, and I always knew to respect my dad and my mom when they were both in this, like, same situation, scenario, environment, but once my dad left, I was like, Mom, you never do this. It was unnecessary for no reason. So that's how I treated my mom as a kid. I was not good. I was not good at all. And I would lie to my mom. Oh my gosh, I would lie so much. Like, I don't know what made me want to lie, but I just felt like lying. And being an only child, for those who are only children, just let me know if it's just me. But when it came to me, I would always like plan out situations in my head before they actually like came up to like happening. Like, for example, being an only child, I'd be like, okay, let me practice what it would be like meeting my first friend, or what it would be like if I got an argument with my friend. I would know what to say before it actually happened. Like I'd always do that. And then it developed this way of me lying to where I'd make up things and say things that are not true. It was, I did a lot. That's what happens when you have too much free time as a kid and you don't really have much toys and no TV time. Oh my goodness. My mother gave me no TV time. She said, if it's not 3 a.m., you're not watching the TV. I couldn't watch nothing, okay? It was really frustrating. But I do remember, this is how strict my mom was when it came to like believing Adventism and going by the Bible. I had a friend named Brooke at the apartment when I was around 10 years old. And Brooke would always come over and knock on the door and be like, is Nadine home? And my mom would be like, yes, she is. Mind you, she lived right underneath me at the apartment. And she would come up to me and be like, hey, like, let's hang out, da 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 da. So at first I started out hanging out, drawing chalk on like the pavement and stuff like that, little games, jump rope. Sometimes we would go swimming because we had a community pool. And I remember one time she finally invited me into her apartment. I was like, I'm excited. It's about to get fun. So we go into the apartment and she's like, hey, I have some music. Do you want to listen to it? Mind you, I've only listened to Christian music up until that very moment. So I'm like, oh yeah, what are you going to play? Some Christian? And she said, Christian? She said, me and my mom are not Christian. I said, oh, okay, what music are you going to play? She's like, I have the newest generation Kids Bop. And I'm like, oh, what's Kids Bop? She said, what? You don't know what Kids Bop is? I really didn't. I had no clue. So she played it for me. And when I say we jammed, we danced. We had so much fun. I was like, my mom is gonna kill me. Like literally, I was having so much fun with her. I was like, this is about to be my bestie for the resty. Like, this is so much fun. We have to do this every single time. And she was like, yeah, we could do this. I got all of them. She would give me a spreadsheet. Like, you know how back in the day where you would have all the CDs in like a little slip? She had all of them. Literally all types of different Kids Bops. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to come here and jam with you all the time. Like, it's that serious. And I was like, girl, you can never tell my mom. So if you ever want me to hang out, don't say, hey, we're about to listen. We're not listening to nothing. We're going to draw. We're going to play with dolls. We're going to do everything else. But don't tell my mom I'm listening to this music because she won't be happy. But she was really great. And honestly, she was my first best friend. Now that I think about it, she was literally my first best friend. So if Brooke, you ever see this video, I don't know how you would, but if you ever do see it, I hope you're doing well. Hit me up because I have not talked to you. I do have a picture of you still, like a little school picture in my photo album. She literally was the sweetest in the whole world. And I love her for being my first best friend. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, literally she was amazing and I love her and I had so much fun with her. She was great. And then I think what happened is either I moved first or she ended up moving out first, but we moved into a home. So one thing about my dad, like I said, he's cheap, but he could save a coin. Yeah, he was saving his money. Even though my mom would stay at home, my dad was saving that money to get a home. So that's why I said traditional. So my parents came to California, got an apartment, and then we got a house, okay? And that became my childhood home to this day. I still have access to that house. And we moved to Loma Linda and got into a house, and I loved that house. Because mind you, at the apartment, I slept on a futon every single night. A futon. So if I wasn't facing the wall, I was facing my dad's computer because that futon was located in my dad's office. So I didn't really have a room, but I had my own bathroom. But like, it wasn't really my room. So moving from that situation to the house where I had my own room, I was like, heck yes, this is great. I have my own room. And then my dad was like, psych, you don't have that many clothes, so I'm going to use half of your closet. So it ended up being a joint room for a long time, and I didn't really like that, but I was still okay with adapting. I was happy that I had my own room. My dad painted it pink, like he did everything for me, and I'm so grateful for that. And what's crazy is what we started at the house was a routine. Every Friday night, we would read the Bible consistently to where I had my own Bible, my mom had her own Bible, my dad had his own Bible. So we individually had our own Bible to really make it feel, I don't know what they were trying to make it feel, but it was great. I loved it. I had no complaints, honestly, because my Bible was pink. Okay. So as a little girly girl, I was like, yeah, I'm going to come read my Bible with my parents. And we started from Genesis and we almost made it to Revelation. We almost made it to Revelation. And it would be like, I would read a verse, my mom would read a verse, my dad would read a verse. I would read a verse, my mom would be in that rotation. Every single Friday night, that's how we would bring in the Sabbath. And after we read the Bible, we would sing a song, and then we would pray, and then go to bed, and then we would go to church. And that was something we just ended up doing. And I never had an issue with it, completely honest. I never had an issue going to church. I think one thing for sure, I think my parents did a really good job making it not so, what's the word? Like, they weren't strict about reading the Bible or going to church. It was just something that we did. I thought every family was doing it, to be completely honest. I didn't think of it as like, oh, do we have to do this or do we have to go to church? But every Sabbath, I would wake up and I'd be excited to go to church because as an only child, my friends were at church. I ended up making so many friends there. So I was excited to see them. It would be the one day out of the week that I got to see my friends. So I was like, let me get up and go to church. And like I said, my parents spoiled me. So I had the nicest dresses. So I never felt like I was lacking anything when it came to going to church, especially with my outward appearance, even though God looks at the heart. But yeah, so I was just really having a great time going to church. I literally met my other friend. Shout out to Ashley. I met her. I met my friend Mackenzie. I met a girl named Erica. I met all these wonderful friends that I would never take back. Like, I'm so glad I got to meet them. And I'm still like happy that my parents raised me the way that they did because I wouldn't have loved church if it wasn't for them. And my mom, shout out to my mom and my dad. But my mom, like I said, she was about that book. She was about that Bible. She knew her commandments. She knew everything from like everything. So it was just like, it motivated me to be more like her because I was like, my mom is so soft. She's so nice. She's so kind. So it's like, let me be more like my mom. But it was an ongoing battle, like I said, because since I was being spoiled, I would have some attitude and talking back. But when I went to church, truly, when I went to church, it was a great time. I had no complaints. I loved going to church. I loved it. And I still do to this day. And I think that the way your parents raise you when it comes to going to church definitely play a part on how you are today when it comes to going to church. Because I remember I had a lot of friends who didn't have the same like the way they were raised was not like mine. So for example, maybe they made them get up way earlier, or maybe they had them following more rules. I don't know what is going on with the other, like all those other people that I met at church. They don't really go to church as often. And I'm going to be honest too. I don't go to church as often either, but if I can go, I will. But it's never like, oh, I'm not going to church because I don't mess with those people at church. Da, 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 da. I love my church. I love everybody at my church. They all treated me well. And I think it's also because of my parents, because they kept me involved. I was in the church choir. I was ushering. I was so in tune with church to the point where my dad was a deacon at the church. And I remember when I was very, very young, before when I was like maybe 4 or 5, like real young, up to his kneecaps, my dad would come get the offering for church. And I would walk with him, like literally walk next to him, hold his arm, hold his leg. And I would go with him. Every time he picked up that offering, I would always be like attached to my dad somehow, to where I felt like I need to be by his side. I need to be involved. And like I said, I was an usher in the church. That was fun because I was ushering with my girlfriend. So that was fun. Yeah, I had a great time. A lot of good stories, a lot of good experiences. I can't complain. And like I said, I'm very grateful that my parents really instilled going to church and reading the Bible. I understood it. I would ask my parents questions. I'd be like, so why are we going to church on Saturday? Why not Sunday? Because I had a lot of my friends go to church on Sunday. And I was like, why are we not going to church Sunday? Like, I thought everybody who goes to church on Sunday was Catholic. That's my mindset as a kid. But it was more than that. But my dad would always just go back and reference the Bible. And he'd be like, hey, right here it says the seventh day is the Sabbath, the day that we rest. And he would talk about that and go into detail. And I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. It says it in the Bible. So I believe it. It's true. I'm going to be going to church on Sabbath every single time. And that was something I always did. And what is so crazy is, you know how I told you that my dad was a janitor at I ended up going to that school from K to 11th grade. Mind you, keyword, K to 11th. Not 12th, but 11th. And I'm just going to spill a little tea because on the next episode, we're going to talk about me going to private school. And I'm going to spill all the beans on that. Not holding back. But when it came to me going to K through 11th grade, I decided to dip and go to my rivalry school. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say why. I'm not going to say what influenced me. Nothing. But just know, I'm going to spill the beans on why I left 11th grade after going to school from kindergarten, knowing all them kids and all that. And I just said, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm not staying here no more. But like I was saying, the way my parents raised me, I'm very grateful for. I think it really also, I developed a lot of individuality, I think, with my parents. Just because seeing how my dad was, he was very organized. He was very straight to the point, saved money. He's about the book. Like, he wasn't doing anything wrong. And I liked that because my dad was very independent. He didn't have anyone that he was really leaning on to when it came to raising me as his child and being a dad and being a husband. So I like that. And then with my mom, she was individual as well because she didn't have like a whole bunch of girlfriends that she would hang out with, bring them over. She did none of that. She would be reading the Bible or she would be watching 3ABN, like, or listening to KSGN. If you know, 89.7. Like, that's what she would do. So seeing all that really made me feel like I got to have my own individuality as a person. And I got to experience that, and I'm happy. Like I said, having a two-parent household does play a huge part on how you end up being as a child. Not everybody has the same childhood as me. I know that. But I just know that two-parent household was something I wanted to do myself. If I was ever to get married or to have a child, I would want to make sure that it's a two-parent household, and it stays that way because we're not getting divorced, okay? We're not getting divorced. But anyways, so that's just pretty much a little history of, my parents, them coming to California and getting straight to work and saving that bread and raising me and taking care of me and getting me into my childhood home. I love that house, still love it to this day. And yeah, I just really, really want to just say thank you to my mom and my dad. So thank you, Nestor. Thank you, Michelle, for doing a great job raising me. I know there were some times where you would question your what's the word? You would question yourself and just be like, am I doing a good job? Let me just tell you, you did a great job. Exceeding expectations, just so you know. So Dad, I know you had some times where like, am I doing a good job? You did a great job, Dad. Okay, I think you did a great job. So I just want to say thank you to them. Shout out to my grandma too. I love her. She definitely stepped in when she needed to. But yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys a little rundown of how I was raised a little bit. Just so you guys know, and I am an only child, and born in August. I don't know if I made that clear, but I was born in August. That makes me a Leo, Leo, Leo. That's me. But yeah, and I'm actually happy I didn't have any siblings. Like really, really happy. I don't think I would have liked them at all. Honestly, I think we would have fought every single chance, every opportunity. I probably would have fought. Because if I'm yelling at my mom, imagine me yelling at my brother or a younger sister. Like, oof, that would have been terrible. But anyways, that's just pretty much a little rundown about how I was raised, how my parents met, and me going to church and making sure that they make that a routine every Sabbath. And yeah, that's everything about me. And on the next episode, like I said, I'm talking about going to private school. So what happened in kindergarten, first grade, not every single grade, but I'm going to be talking about it all. And I'm going to be talking about how I lost a lot of friends. And I'm also going to talk about how I kept stealing. Remember how I told you that I stole my first time stealing? I got to elementary school and I dabbled a little bit more into that stealing. But hey, this is everything for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, a little rundown, a little history of my parents and, how they met and everything. Mind you, let me just make this very clear. I didn't say it earlier, but my parents have been married for like 30 years, okay? Clock it. I am so happy that they stayed married, didn't divorce. So that's very inspirational for me as well as an individual. I definitely want to stay married for a long time, forever and ever. But yeah, just wanted to add that in there as well. But this is the end of the episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, don't catch up. Keep up with your girl, Nad. Thank you so much for joining me on that episode. Wasn't that conversation interesting? I suggest you to follow me on my socials so you can keep up with me. And hey, don't catch up. Keep up with your girl, Nad.